Hey guys, tonight we find ourselves taking on a temporary and decidedly peculiar job. The old London Central Post Office on Threadneedle Street, a building that smells of dust, dried ink, and a century of damp, needs a night watchman. The regular fellow, a man named Albert, has apparently taken a sudden leave of absence due to what the agency called nervous exhaustion. You've signed the forms, collected the heavy old-fashioned brass key, and now, as a cold drizzle slicks the cobblestones, you stand before its soot-stained brick facade. The windows are blind, black eyes against the deepening twilight. It's not the most glamorous gig, but the pay is decent, and frankly, you tell yourself it's just a building. A very old, very quiet, and very large building. You probably won't survive this with your skepticism intact, but the rent is due, so here we are. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, feel free to post your location and local time in the comments below. I always find it fascinating to see where in the world everyone is drifting off from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You fit the key into the stubborn iron-banded door, the click echoing with a finality that feels excessive. The door swings inward on complaining hinges, revealing a cavernous hall swallowed by shadows. Your flashlight beam cuts a nervous path across a vast checkerboard tile floor, scuffed and worn by countless forgotten footsteps. The air is cold and still, thick with the scent of old paper and polished wood. A long, dark oak counter runs the length of the far wall, behind which are countless sorting cubbies, a honeycomb of darkness. You can just make out the crest of the General Post Office above it all, a lion and a unicorn looking decidedly unimpressed with your arrival. Your first task, according to the terse instructions, is to do a preliminary walkthrough. Just a simple check to make sure no pipes have burst and no Victorian urchins have taken up residence. Simple. You trudge further in, your footsteps the only sound in the profound silence. This place was the nerve center of London's communication for over 100 years. Historians still argue whether the sheer volume of human emotion, love letters, death notices, declarations of war, that pass through these halls can somehow imprint on a location, a concept they call stone tape theory. It's a fringe idea, of course, but standing here it feels a little less fringe. You pass a wall of what were once public posting slots, their tiny brass doors hanging open like slack jaws. You sweep your light across them, and for a moment, you think you see a flicker of movement in the darkness behind them. You freeze. It's nothing. Just your eyes, tired from the long day, playing tricks. Probably. You take a deep breath and continue your rounds, trying to ignore the creeping sensation that the building is not empty, but simply holding its breath. The main sorting room is a cathedral of forgotten mail. Towering shelves, crammed with dusty ledgers and bulging mail sacks, create a labyrinth of shadows that your torchlight can barely penetrate. Your official duty, as per the agency binder, is to ensure general asset security, which basically means making sure no one has stolen a sack of 100-year-old tax returns. It's hardly a thrilling prospect. To stave off the boredom, you decide to do a bit of unofficial exploring, running your fingers over the spines of the ledgers, the leather cool and slightly powdery. It's in a dim corner, on a shelf that seems to have escaped a cleaner's attention for half a century, that you find it. A small teakwood box, inlaid with a faded mother-of-pearl lily, tucked behind a stack of brittle parcel registries. It's out of place, too elegant for this room of pragmatic record-keeping. Your curiosity, that little voice that always gets people in trouble in places like this, wins out. You lift the lid. Inside there are no stamps, no official forms. Just a stack of letters, perhaps 24, tied with a frayed silk ribbon. The paper is thick, expensive, but brittle with age. The first thing you notice is the date at the top of the first one. 17th November 1888. The second thing you notice is that there is no postmark. Not a single one. These letters were never sent. You settle into the worn leather chair at the foreman's old desk, the green-shaded lamp casting a small, warm pool of light in the immense, chilly darkness. You carefully untie the ribbon, which feels unnervingly damp, and unfold the first letter. The handwriting is elegant, a woman's hand, looping and precise, but there's a slight tremor in the downstrokes, a hint of urgency or fear. "My dearest E," it begins. The fog has clung to the city for 3 days now, a thick yellow shroud that muffles the cries of the newsboys and the clatter of the hansom cabs. Feels like the world is holding its breath, waiting. Father has been in a state all week. Something about investments in the Argentinian railways turning sour. He speaks of little else, and his temper is a live wire in the house. I find myself retreating to the morning room, watching the condensation trace paths down the window panes, thinking of our conversation by the Serpentine. It feels a lifetime ago, though it was only a month. Do you ever feel that time is not a river, but a series of locked rooms? I fear I am in one now, and I have misplaced the key. It's a poignant, beautifully sad piece of writing, a glimpse into a life long extinguished. But as you read, a strange sensation prickles at the back of your neck. It's not just the content, it's the paper itself. Feels cooler than it should. And there's a scent, faint but unmistakable, that lifts from the page as you handle it. Not the expected smell of dust and decay, but the ghost of a perfume, something floral and old-fashioned, like violets and orris root. You lift the paper closer to your face, and in the dim light, you see it. A faint, gray smudge at the edge of the page, right where a person would hold the letter steady as they wrote. It looks like a fingerprint, a smudge of ink from a careless hand over a century ago. A shiver, completely unrelated to the basement chill of the room, traces a path down your spine. You are not just reading history. You are holding its ghost. The scent of violets is stronger now, a cold, sweet ribbon in the air that seems to emanate from the very pages in your hands. You find yourself leaning closer to the lamplight, the hairs on your arms standing up, as if the room's temperature has dropped another few degrees. That faint, inky smudge on the first letter holds your gaze. It's a human mark, a tiny, accidental signature from a person who should be nothing but dust. You have the irrational thought that if you pressed your own finger against it, they might somehow meet across the void. You shake your head, giving a soft, self-deprecating chuckle that sounds far too loud in the silence. Getting spooked by a smudge, you mutter to the empty sorting room, your voice swallowed by the shelves of paper. Next you'll be jumping at the sound of your own heartbeat. It's a decent joke, you think, but your laugh doesn't quite reach your eyes. You turn your attention back to the letters, the paper whispering with a dry, skeletal sound as you unfold the next one. The date is 2nd December 1888. The handwriting is the same, but the tremor is more pronounced, the letters slanting more desperately across the page. "My dearest E," it begins again. "I saw a most peculiar thing today. A gentleman on the street of obvious means was carrying a small, caged canary. When I inquired of my companion, she told me it is a new fashion among the more cautious set, a living detector for the foul airs of the miasma. They truly believe a bird's death can warn them of sickness. It struck me as profoundly sad, this tiny, bright life valued only as a sacrifice to fear. It made me think of our own cage, my love. The bars are gilded, to be sure, but they are no less real. My father has begun to speak of a Mr. Ashworth, of his prospects and his suitable character. He dined with us last Tuesday. His hands were very clean, and his eyes were like two polished stones. He did not once look at the moon through the drawing-room window. You learn something new every day, even in a haunted post office. The Victorians' fear of miasma, the belief that bad air caused disease, was very real, leading to all sorts of bizarre practices, from carrying posies of flowers to, yes, using canaries as personal air quality monitors long before they were sent into coal mines. It's a weird, quirky historical footnote that feels perfectly at home in this strange correspondence. But the letter's main thrust is clear. An arranged marriage is looming. The writer, whose name you still don't know, is being pushed towards a man she finds utterly soulless. The E she writes to is her secret, her escape. And as you read her words, you feel a fresh, almost imperceptible chill on the back of your own writing hand, the one resting on the desk. You glance down. There's nothing there. But for a fleeting second, you could have sworn you felt the cold, smooth weight of a signet ring you don't own, and the phantom pressure of a pen in your grasp. The proposal, when it comes, is not in a letter from her, but in one you find tucked beneath the rest. Its paper slightly different, its script bolder and more angular. A man's hand. He. The date is 18 January 1889. It lacks the formal salutation of her letters, beginning with a desperate urgency. I can no longer stand this charade. This evening, while your father and Mr. Ashworth debated the price of Peruvian guano, I watched you. I saw the light go out behind your eyes as you poured the tea. It was the loneliest thing I have ever witnessed. I have a position now, a junior clerkship with the East India Company. It is not a fortune, but it is a start. It is a future. Meet me tomorrow night at midnight by the old lamppost at the southeast entrance of the post office. It is always quiet there. We can take a coach to the docks. The SS Pericles sails with the morning tide for Alexandria. We can be on it. We can be free. Burn this, but say you will come. Yours in all things, E. Your breath catches. This is it. The pivotal moment. A junior clerkship with the East India Company. That was a classic, if precarious, path for a young man of modest means but good education in the 19th century. It promised adventure and potential wealth, but also disease, distance, and an uncertain future. It was a gamble, and E was staking everything on it on her. You can feel the stakes in the frantic energy of his ink. He wasn't just proposing marriage. He was proposing a complete severing from her life. An elopement that would have been the scandal of her season, rendering her an outcast to her family and class. Historians still argue whether such dramatic escapes were common or merely the stuff of novels, but the rigid social structures of the time made the consequences brutally real. You find yourself hoping, irrationally, that she said yes, that they made it to Alexandria, that this story has a happy ending buried in this box of unsent ghosts. But then you remember the rest of the letters. The ones dated after this proposal. The ones that were never sent. A cold dread, heavier than the basement chill, begins to settle in your stomach. She didn't burn it. She kept it. And she kept writing to him. You unfold the next letter from her, dated 19th January, 1889. The day after the proposed meeting. The paper is marred by a single devastating blot of ink, as if the pen had been held too long in a shaking hand. My dearest E. It starts, the words terrifyingly formal, a fortress of composure built over a chasm of despair. It rained last night. A steady, miserable rain that turned the streets to rivers of mud. I stood at my window until my limbs were stiff with cold, watching it sheet down the glass. Could not come. Forgive me. I am a coward, caged not by iron, but by my own fear. The thought of the docks, the ship, the vast, unknown sea. It filled me with a terror I cannot describe. I saw Mr. Ashworth again today. He remarked upon my pallor. He said I looked like a ghost. If only he knew. She didn't go. She stood him up. The grand romantic gamble, and fear held her back. The story isn't a romance anymore. It's a tragedy, and you are now its only audience. The profound silence of the post office begins to feel different. It's no longer just an absence of sound, but a presence. It has a texture, a weight, and it seems to listen as you read. You shift in the creaking leather chair, the sound absurdly loud, and find your eyes drifting from the letters to the cavernous room around you. The high, vaulted ceiling is lost in shadow, but the walls are lined with those countless sorting cubbies, a giant's honeycomb, each one a potential hiding place. It makes you think about the building itself, this great silent machine designed for one purpose, to funnel the world's secrets through its halls. You recall a quirky tidbit you once read. The architect of this very building, a man named Septimus Harding, was obsessed with acoustic engineering. He designed the main sorting hall with a series of arched ceilings and parabolic niches not for beauty, but to amplify sound, allowing a foreman standing in the center to hear the slightest whisper of gossip or the tear of a stamp from 50 feet away. He believed it would prevent theft and increase efficiency. Historians still argue whether his design was genius or paranoia given architectural form. It's a strange, almost silly fact, but standing here now in the oppressive quiet, it feels less silly and more deeply unsettling. Because if the room is designed to capture and amplify sound, what happens to all the sounds that have been made here? The rustle of these very letters being hidden away. The soft, desperate sob of a woman realizing she's made the worst mistake of her life. The theory of stone tape feels less like a fringe idea and more like a user's manual for this place. The building isn't just a container for a ghost story. It's an active participant. It has been listening all along, holding every whispered conversation, every sigh of frustration, every frantic scratch of a pen in its brick and mortar bones. And now you're here, in the center of this acoustic web, reading the very words it has been hoarding for over a century. You are not just an audience. You are a component, a new string being pulled tight in a very old instrument. The thought makes you shiver, and you pull your jacket a little closer, the faint scent of violets seeming to cling to the fabric now. The first sound, when it comes, is so soft you almost mistake it for the settling of the old building. A gentle, rhythmic shuff, shuff, shuff. You freeze, the letter in your hand forgotten, your entire being focused on your ears. It's coming from the far end of the sorting room, deep in the canyon of shelves. Sounds like paper. Not the rustle of a single page, but the methodical back-and-forth slide of a heavy stack of envelopes. Shuff, shuff, shuff. It's the sound of a postal worker from a bygone era, sorting the morning mail with practiced, unhurried efficiency. Except it's the dead of night, and you are utterly alone. Your heart begins a slow, heavy thump against your ribs. You slowly, silently, place the letter back in the teakwood box and close the lid. The scent of violets seems to intensify for a moment, a cold, sweet protest. You stand up, the leather chair groaning in complaint, and you click off your torch, plunging yourself into near-total darkness. The small pool of light from the desk lamp now feels like a dangerously exposed island. You peer into the gloom towards the source of the sound. Shuff, shuff, shuff. It's hypnotic. It doesn't sound menacing. Sounds routine. Boring even. And that, you realize, is the most terrifying part. This isn't a chain-rattling specter. It's the ghost of a completely ordinary workday. You remember reading about the daily grind for Victorian postmen. Their shifts could be 16 hours long, and they were expected to sort thousands of letters per hour by hand, their fingers becoming raw and stained with ink. This sound is the echo of that mundane exhaustion. You take a single, cautious step away from the desk, then another, your eyes straining. The sound seems to shift, moving slightly to the left. It's as if the sorter is working their way down a row. You can almost picture them, a man in a gray uniform, his face obscured by shadow, his movements automatic, his mind a million miles away, thinking of his own supper, his own bed, his own life. A life that ended long before you were born. Shuff, shuff, shuff. The sound is closer now. It's no longer at the far end of the room. It's maybe 20 feet away, just beyond the last row of shelves. You hold your breath. The sound stops. The silence that rushes in to fill the void is a physical pressure on your eardrums. And in that silence, you hear a new sound. Soft, damp sigh. It's the sound of someone very tired, letting out a long, weary breath. Comes from right beside you. You stumble back, your shoulder connecting hard with a shelf. A cloud of ancient dust plumes around you, and you bite back a cough, your heart hammering a frantic tattoo against your ribs. The space where the sigh originated is empty, utterly, completely empty. But the air there is frigid, a pocket of midwinter air in the already chilly room. The rhythmic shuffling doesn't start again. The silence is back, but it's a different kind of silence now. Watchful and deeply amused. You fumble for your torch, clicking it on with a shaky hand. The beam dances erratically across the floor, a visible manifestation of your nerves. You need to get a grip. You are a night watchman, not a protagonist in a gothic novel. You force yourself to take a few deep, steadying breaths, the air still laced with that cold, floral perfume. It's time to stop reading and do your actual job. The walk. The second round. Just you, your torch, and the reassuringly solid reality of checking doors. You leave the sorting room, the heavy door swinging shut behind you with a soft, final thud that doesn't quite block out the feeling of being watched. The main hall is even darker now, the streetlights outside casting long, distorted shadows through the grimy fanlight above the main entrance. Your footsteps echo with a hollow, lonely sound. You decide to check the smaller administrative offices that branch off the main corridor. The first door, marked Postmaster General, Private, is locked tight. The second, Revenue and Accounting, is also secure. The third door has no plaque, its paint blistered and peeling. The knob turns easily in your hand. The room inside is small, windowless, and smells overwhelmingly of old metal and damp paper. It's a storage closet for obsolete equipment. And there, on a shelf next to a broken stamp press, you see another box. This one is not elegant teakwood. It's a simple, cheap cardboard document box, the kind used in 1,000 offices. It's labeled, in stark, official-looking type, Censors Disposals, Q4 1917. The Great War. The air in the little room grows colder. You know the history. During the war, a secret army of censors read millions of letters sent by soldiers and their families, scissoring out any information that could be deemed useful to the enemy. It was a necessary, if brutal, invasion of privacy on an industrial scale. But this box, it feels different. It's not part of the official archive. It's hidden. You lift the lid. Inside are not whole letters, but fragments, scraps of paper, cut and torn from their original pages. Some are mundane. The weather here is, or, tell mother I am. But others are more chilling. One fragment in a frantic spidery hand reads, "They are not shells, it is a." The rest is cut away. Another, smeared with what looks like old brown mud or something else, says simply, "The postman knows, he saw it in the..." The final word is missing. It's a collection of silenced secrets, a ghost of the censor's shears. And tucked at the very bottom is a single, intact envelope. It is addressed to a Miss Eleanor Gray, the same name from the Victorian letters. But this postmark is clearly 1917. It's impossible, unless it's not the same woman. It's a descendant. The story, it seems, did not end in 1889. Your mind is reeling. Eleanor Gray. The name connects the elegant, heartbroken Victorian woman to the grim reality of the Western Front. It can't be a coincidence. It feels like a thread, pulled taut across decades, and you've just stumbled over it. The 1917 envelope is thin, cheap wartime paper, a stark contrast to the heavy, scented sheets from the teakwood box. You carefully slide the letter out. The handwriting is different again. A man's, but hasty and uneven, written in pencil. It's not a love letter. It's a confession. "My dearest Nora." It begins using a familiar nickname. "I pray this reaches you before the official telegram. I am unharmed in body at least. But I have seen something here that has unmoored me entirely. I cannot speak of it in detail, you understand. The censor's black ink hovers over every word. But I must tell someone, and you are the only one who would not think me mad." He goes on to describe his unit being stationed in a quiet sector of the front, a place of mud and rotting sandbags. He writes of the constant background noise of artillery, a sound so pervasive the soldiers called it the rumble jar. But then he describes a new sound, one that came not from the German lines, but from no man's land itself. A low, rhythmic clicking like two stones being tapped together. At first, they thought it was a sniper's trick, or a wire swaying in the wind. But it persisted night after night. It seemed to respond to their own noises, sometimes speeding up, sometimes falling silent when they called out. It was intelligent. One night, a young private, driven mad by the sound, screamed into the darkness. "What are you?" The clicking stopped. And then a single, perfectly enunciated English word drifted back across the mud, clear as a bell in the frozen air. "Waiting." The letter ends abruptly there, as if the writer was interrupted. There is no signature, just that one terrifying word. Waiting. Historians still argue whether such accounts from the trenches are the result of mass hysteria, auditory hallucinations born of shell shock, or something else entirely. The sheer, mind-shattering stress of that environment could make men see and hear anything. But this feels different. This feels like a secret so profound it had to be cut from its original letter and hidden in this forgotten closet. A secret that somehow involves the Grey family. You look from the cheap wartime paper in your hand to the elegant Victorian script in the teakwood box. 2 Eleanors, 2 tragedies, 2 sets of unsent, or unsendable, letters. And you, the night watchman, are now the only person who knows they are connected. The clicking from no man's land seems to echo in your mind, and you have the unnerving feeling that whatever was waiting then, is waiting here too. The name is a drumbeat in your skull now. Eleanor Gray. Eleanor Gray. It's no longer just a name on a page. It's a key, and it's turning in a lock you can't see. You abandon the censor's closet. The chilling finality of that penciled word, waiting, clinging to you like the basement's chill. You need to know more. You return to the foreman's desk in the sorting hall, the lamplight a fragile sanctuary. You pull the teakwood box closer and begin to sift through the letters with a new, frantic purpose. No longer reading for the star-crossed romance, but scanning for the name. It appears again, not as the recipient, but in a passing mention in a later letter from the original Victorian Eleanor, dated March 1889. Her tone is one of hollow resignation. Mother has taken to her bed with one of her nervous complaints. Father speaks of nothing but the wedding contracts. Mr. Ashworth has gifted me a locket. It is cold against my skin. The only solace is little Nora. My niece Eleanor, though we call her Nora. She is but 4 years old, and her laughter in the nursery is the only sound in this house that does not feel like a sentence. She asked me yesterday why I look so sad. I told her it was because the rain had washed all the colors away. She offered me her favorite blue ribbon. So there were 2. The original writer, whose name you still don't know, and her niece, Eleanor Nora Gray. The little girl with the blue ribbon. The same Nora to whom the soldier would write his terrified letter from the trenches 28 years later. A family curse of intercepted correspondence. You feel a strange, protective pang for this little girl, whose innocent laughter once echoed in a silent house, destined to receive a letter about clicking stones and a voice from the mud. You dig deeper, your fingers now numb with cold. The letters from the Victorian Eleanor become sparser, the handwriting flatter, the content consumed with the mundane details of her impending marriage to the odious Mr. Ashworth. The fire has gone out of her. But it's in the very last of her letters, the final one in the stack, that you find the true connection. The date is blurred by a water stain or a tear, but it's sometime in late 1890. "My dearest E," it begins, the salutation a ghost of its former self. "I saw her today, little Nora. She was in the park with her nanny. She is the very image of her mother, but she has your eyes, the exact same shade of gray. It was like seeing a ghost of the future we might have had. It is a cruel and beautiful punishment. I must stop this now. Cannot. I will not write again. Forgive me. Remember me. Forget me." She stopped writing. She saw the future in a child's face, and it broke her. And that child, Nora Gray, with the gray eyes inherited from a man known only as E, would grow up to receive a letter from a different war. A letter containing a secret so dark it was censored and hidden in this very building. The 2 tragedies are not just connected by blood. They are a perfect, miserable symmetry. And you are sitting at the exact center of it, the designated reader for a story that has been waiting over a century for an audience. The building itself seems to be leaning in, the shadows between the shelves deepening into solid, breathing darkness. The high ceiling feels lower, the air thicker. It's a conscious pressure, and you realize with a jolt that it's not a malevolent force. It's a guiding one. The floor, the ancient checkerboard tile you've been walking on all night, seems to pull at your feet. When you decide to get up and walk, just to shake the creeping dread, your steps feel less like a choice and more like a current is tugging you along a specific path. You find yourself not heading towards the main entrance for a breath of relatively fresh air, but down a narrow service corridor you hadn't noticed before, one that slopes gently downward. The air grows damper, colder, carrying the scent of wet stone and earth. The electric lights here are older, with frayed cloth-covered wires, and they flicker with a lazy, pulsing rhythm. You stop, your torch beam probing the gloom ahead. The corridor ends at a door. It's not like the other office doors. This one is heavy, banded with iron that is scaly with rust, and it looks centuries old. A massive, antiquated lock, the kind that would require a key the size of your hand, secures it. This must be the entrance to the fabled basement, the sub-level that wasn't on the building schematics the agency showed you. The official story was that it was sealed off after the war due to flooding and structural concerns. But standing before it now, that feels like a lie. It wasn't sealed for safety. It was sealed to keep something in. The sheer, physical presence of the door is intimidating, a stark barrier against the unknown. Yet, the guiding pressure you felt moments ago is now a firm, insistent push between your shoulder blades, urging you forward. The building wants you to go down there. It has been leading you here all night, through letters and whispers and cold spots. This is the heart of it. This is where the story ends, or perhaps where it truly begins. As you stare at the imposing lock, a memory surfaces, a quirky historical tidbit about Victorian security. The most secure locks of the era often had a builder's key, a single master key fashioned by the architect himself, used for all the primary doors during construction and then supposedly destroyed. Historians still argue whether old Septimus Harding, the acoustically obsessed architect, actually followed this practice or kept his master key, a symbol of his ultimate control over the structure he created. It's a fringe theory, but it feels vitally important right now. Because if he did keep it, and if this building is as sentient as it seems, where would it hide such a key? Your mind flashes back to the foreman's desk, the one you've been sitting at all night, the one with the single stubborn drawer you couldn't open. The building didn't just guide you to the basement door. It sat you right on top of the key. You move quickly, almost running back down the service corridor, the oppressive feeling at the basement door replaced by a frantic, single-minded focus. The sorting room feels different upon your return, not safer but charged, as if the air is humming with a low, inaudible current. You don't hesitate. You drop to your knees beside the foreman's desk, ignoring the cold seeping through your trousers, and yank at the small central drawer you dismissed earlier, still stuck fast. You fumble in your pocket for your multi-tool, your fingers clumsy with a cold that has nothing to do with the temperature. You jimmy the blade into the slim gap between the drawer front and the desk frame, levering it back and forth. The old wood groans in protest, splintering with a sound like a gunshot in the silence. With a final, gritty shudder, the drawer gives way, sliding open a few inches. Inside, there is no accumulation of mundane office detritus. No dried-out rubber bands, no blunt pencils. There is only a single object, lying on the dusty wood as if it had been placed there yesterday. It is as long as your hand, forged from blackened iron, its bow an intricate, twisted design that looks vaguely like a lion and a unicorn. The GPO crest. The builder's key. Your breath mists in the air as you exhale, a plume of white in the lamplight. You've just confirmed a fringe historical theory with your own two hands. This changes everything. You reach for it, your fingers closing around the cold, surprisingly heavy metal. The moment you touch it, a wave of vertigo washes over you, so strong you have to brace yourself against the desk. It's not your vertigo. It's a memory implanted in the iron. A flash of a man's hand, Harding's hand, slipping this key into this drawer for the last time, a profound regret in his heart. He knew what he was building. He knew what it would become. As the dizziness subsides, you become aware of a new presence in the room. It's not the weary sigh of the sorter, nor the cold perfume of the Victorian woman. This is different. It's a feeling of pure, cold descent. It emanates from the space behind you, near the doorway to the basement corridor. It's not a shape, not a sound, but an undeniable, intelligent will, pressing against your own. It doesn't want you to have the key. It doesn't want you to open that door. The message is clear, a silent scream in the fabric of the room. Stop. Turn back. This is not for you. The pressure is immense, a wall of cold dread that pushes against your chest, making it hard to breathe. It's the most direct communication you've had all night, and it's a warning. The key feels like a block of ice in your palm, its weight both a promise and a threat. You have a choice. Listen to the warning, leave the key, and perhaps see the sunrise. Or take it, and see what the building has been so desperately trying to hide. The choice is no choice at all. You couldn't turn back now if you wanted to. The story has its hooks in you, deeper than fear, deeper than reason. You tighten your grip on the iron key, its cold teeth biting into your palm, and you stand, turning to face the oppressive dread emanating from the corridor. No, you say, and your voice, though quiet, doesn't waver. The pressure in the room intensifies for a moment, a final, desperate push, and then it vanishes. The silence that remains is shocked, almost respectful. You've passed a test. You walk back to the basement door, your footsteps firm and deliberate on the stone floor. The key slides into the massive lock with a gritty, satisfying precision. You have to use both hands to turn it, the mechanism groaning in protest, the sound of metal scraping against metal echoing like a tomb being unsealed. With a final, thunderous clunk, the lock disengages. You push, and the heavy door swings inward on shrieking iron hinges, revealing not darkness, but a soft, ethereal glow. A set of worn stone steps descends into a circular chamber. The air that wafts up is not the expected smell of rot and decay, but dry and strangely fragrant, like ancient paper and cedarwood. You descend, each step taking you further from the world you know. The chamber below is small, its walls lined not with bricks, but with shelves carved directly into the foundation stone. And on these shelves are boxes, dozens of them, hundreds. They are of every conceivable style and era. Teakwood inlaid with mother-of-pearl, simple cardboard, polished rosewood, beaten tin. It's an archive, a library of every piece of correspondence that ever passed through this building and was never delivered. The love letters, the death notices, the angry accusations, the desperate pleas. All the words that never reached their intended eyes. All the emotions that were trapped in transit. This is the heart of the haunting. The post office isn't haunted by people. It's haunted by their unsent words. And there, on a small central pedestal of stone, lies one final letter. It is alone, set apart from the others, waiting. The paper is the same heavy, scented stock from the teakwood box. The handwriting is the Victorian Eleanor's, but it is calm, resolute, the tremor gone. You don't need to pick it up to know what it is. This is the letter she wrote after she saw little Nora in the park. The one she promised herself would be her last. The one that explains everything. This is the final unsent letter that has been anchoring her here, anchoring this whole sad symphony of silence. The glow in the room seems to emanate from it, a soft, sorrowful light. You have found the core of the mystery. All that remains is to read it. You don't so much read the final letter as you absorb it. The words don't just lie on the page. They rise to meet you, filling the cold, still air of the chamber with a quiet, devastating clarity. My dearest E. It begins, and the voice in your mind is no longer your own. It is hers, calm and terribly sad. If you are reading this, then the silence between us has finally been broken, though not by my hand. I've come to understand this place, this building. It is not merely stone and mortar. It is a vessel. It drinks the sorrow of words unspoken, of letters never sent, and it holds them here, in this quiet heart, where they can never fade. I thought my cowardice was my own private burden. I was wrong. It became a part of the foundation. She explains that after she failed to meet him, her E, a man named Edward, he didn't sail on the SS Pericles. He came here to the post office night after night, leaving letters for her with a night watchman who took pity on him, letters she never received, for her family intercepted them. Edward's hope, his desperation, his love, all seeped into the bricks. And her own replies, the ones in the teakwood box, filled with equal parts love and regret, amplified it. They created a resonance, a feedback loop of unconsummated emotion that the building, designed to capture sound and intention, absorbed and preserved. The haunting wasn't an accident. It was a collaboration. Their shared, thwarted love story became the first and strongest thread in the tapestry of silence that now filled this archive. The letter continues, her tone shifting from confession to revelation. The others you have found, the soldier's letter to Nora, the censored fragments, they are not separate stories. They are echoes. Our strong, foolish hearts tuned this place to a certain frequency, a channel for all the other lost messages that pass through here. The building collects them, preserves them. It is a museum of might-have-beens. And it has been waiting for a new curator, a living soul to finally hear the silence, to read the words, and to understand. This is the true nature of the haunting. It's not a punishment, nor a random paranormal event. It's a system, a postal system for the dead, with you as the newly appointed and utterly unprepared postmaster. The faint scent of violets is now all around you, no longer a ghost, but a presence, waiting. Edward is here too. You can feel him in the patient, watchful stillness. They are both here, in this chamber, their story finally laid bare before you, and they have one final request. The choice they present is not one you ever could have anticipated. It is not a threat, but an offer. The final, unsent letter on the pedestal begins to glow more brightly, its edges shimmering as if seen through a heat haze. The words seem to lift from the page, not as ink, but as light, and they form a question in the air before you. A question spoken in the combined voices of Eleanor and her Edward, a soft, harmonious whisper that fills the circular chamber. Release us. To do that, you must complete their story. You must become the postman they never had. You must take this final letter, the one that contains her ultimate confession and understanding, and you must send it. But there is no address, no stamp, no mailbox. There is only the archive itself. The act of sending they impress upon your mind is an act of belief. It is the conscious, willful transfer of their story from this place of stagnant silence out into the world, even if that world is just the mind of a single tired night watchman. It is the final delivery. The alternative is to leave it, to close the door, to replace the key, to walk away at dawn and never speak of this night. But if you do that, you understand instinctively what will happen. You will become a part of the archive, not as a ghost, not as a specter, but as another unsent message. Your memory of this night, your own story of discovery, will become the newest, freshest exhibit in the Museum of Might-Have-Beens. You will spend the rest of your life feeling the pull of this basement, the weight of the unsent words pressing on your mind, a permanent low-grade static of regret. You will be the watchman who almost knew, the one who came so close to solving the mystery but chose to look away. Your life will become another letter filed away in the dark. It's a terrifying, subtle form of entrapment. They are not forcing you. They are showing you the two paths with a gentle, heartbreaking clarity. You look from the glowing letter to the hundreds of other boxes lining the walls. You think of the soldier's terror in the mud, the censor's shears, the weary sigh of the sorter. All these stories trapped. And you realize this isn't just about Eleanor and Edward anymore. It's about all of them. By choosing to send this one foundational letter, you are not just freeing two lovers. You are breaking the pattern. You are introducing a new, radical concept into this system. Closure. The resonance of their story has held this all together for over a century. Releasing it could quiet the entire building. It could turn down the volume on 100 other tragedies. Or a more frightening thought occurs to you. It could unravel the whole tapestry, releasing every single story at once in a cacophony of long-suppressed emotion that would likely shatter your mind. There is no way to know. There is only the choice. Take the letter and accept the consequences. Or leave it and become a permanent part of the silence. There is no hesitation. You reach out, your fingers passing through the shimmering light, and you touch the final letter. It is not paper you feel, but a pulse, a slow, warm heartbeat of intention that flows up your arm and settles deep within your chest. You don't pick it up. You simply accept it. The moment you do, the light in the chamber intensifies, blazing not with a harsh glare, but with a soft, golden radiance that seems to originate from the very stones. The hundreds of boxes on the shelves begin to glow in sympathy, a constellation of lost stories flickering to life. The air fills with a sound, not a cacophony, but a gentle rising chorus, the whisper of 1,000 pens, the sigh of 1,000,000 unspoken words, all rising in a final, collective exhalation. You feel Eleanor's presence beside you, a warmth where there was only cold, and Edward's, a steady strength. There is a sense of profound gratitude, a weight lifting that is both metaphorical and terrifyingly physical. The light begins to fade, not into darkness, but into a gentle pre-dawn gray. The boxes on the shelves are still there, but they look different now, just boxes. The oppressive, listening silence is gone, replaced by the simple, empty quiet of a very old, very empty building. The scent of violets lingers for a moment, a final, sweet farewell on the air, and then it too is gone. You look down at the pedestal. The letter has vanished, has been sent. You have delivered it. The story is complete. A profound exhaustion washes over you, not just of the body, but of the soul. You have done a night's work that has spanned a century. You turn and slowly climb the stone steps, your legs heavy. You push open the heavy basement door. It now moves easily, silently, and step back into the corridor. You don't bother to lock it. There's no need anymore. You make your way back through the silent sorting hall, past the foreman's desk where the teakwood box now sits, perfectly ordinary and empty. The first weak rays of morning light are beginning to filter through the grimy windows, painting the dust motes in the air with a soft, gold hue. The building feels different, lighter, sleep. The frantic, trapped energy that hummed through it all night has been pacified. You did not unleash chaos by sending the letter. You granted it peace. You sink into the leather chair one last time, watching as the sun properly crests the London skyline, burning away the last of the night's chill. The regular sounds of the city beginning a new day drift in. A distant bus, a bird singing on the ledge outside. They are normal sounds, mundane sounds, and they have never sounded more beautiful. The night is over now, and the stories have been put to rest. The weight of all those years, all those unsent words, has finally been lifted, not with a dramatic bang, but with a quiet, gentle sigh. The building around you is just a building again, its bricks holding only the ordinary memories of ink and stamps and working hours. You can feel the residual warmth of that final, glowing letter nestled deep within you, a comforting ember where once there was a cold dread. There are no more whispers in the shadows, no more phantom scents of perfume, no more guiding pressures. There is only the steady, reliable hum of the waking world outside, a promise of normalcy and light. The silence that remains is a peaceful one, a deep and calming quiet, the kind that invites you to close your eyes, to let your breathing slow, and to finally truly rest. The post office is quiet. The letters have been delivered. Your watch is over. You can sleep now. Then, sweet dreams.